Welcome to COIQ, where you learn how health innovators maximize their success. I'm your host, Dr. Roxy, founder of Legacy DNA and international best-selling author of How Health Innovators Maximize Market Success. Through candid conversations with health innovators, early adopters, and influencers, you'll learn how to bring your innovation from idea to startup to market domination. And now, let's jump into the latest episode of COIQ. Welcome back, COIQ listeners. On today's episode, I have Joe Bhakdi with me. He is the CEO and founder of QuantGene. Welcome to the show, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Roxy. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So for our listeners, let's get started by having you tell them a little bit about your background and what you do.
So I founded QuantGene in 2015, and we are a premium preventative care company with a hard biotech angle. So what we do is we bring advanced medical technologies to our members. It's a self-payer system, and it's based on our observation for a very long time that you have all these amazing medical advancements that don't come to patients, or that come to patients far delayed, like a decade or longer delayed after they have been invented and after there is sufficient clinical evidence, in our opinion, that they can truly move the needle.
Yeah.
No pun intended. And the main obstacle is not clinical evidence to get these technologies to you, it's the payer system. That insurance and Medicare and other people say, well, yeah, it works, it might save people, it might protect you better. We need more evidence that it actually also not just saves lives, but saves money. And we always thought that's wrong for many reasons. And basically combined a concierge and premium care element with telemedicine, which is very, what we need nowadays with COVID. But also give access to these advanced technologies that are already clinically proven to an extent that is overwhelmingly clear in our opinion and our physician's opinion that they can help people. And then get rid of the payer issue by saying, well, you can pay yourself, and we try to make it as affordable as possible, obviously.
Okay, very interesting. So where are you? Well, let's say that, like many of my guests lately, we're having kind of two conversations. One is kind of like who you were and what you were doing prior to COVID, and then kind of who you are and what you're going to do going forward. So, imagine we were talking in February, what was your market strategy then, and where were you in the innovation process?
Yeah, we have this greater strategy that I laid out, that we bring preventative care that is telemedicine based, that was pre-COVID, right? So you take your credit card, you buy a specific protection package around a certain disease. We start with cancer. So in February, we were all about cancer protection and providing advanced cancer detection technologies, specifically deep genomics and AI with a blood test, but also going beyond that, plus advice around cancer, around your risk exposure and profiling cancer. That was who we were in February. We basically said, well, cancer is a tremendous problem, by the way, much bigger than COVID, but getting overruled a little bit right now.
That's another show.
That's another show. So what we built is the first product that basically tells you if you want to be protected, have maximum protection against bad outcomes in cancer, especially as a preventative measure when you are not yet diagnosed, that you want to have the best possible protection and care, especially preventative and early detection. And we just offer that in one package. You become a member, you get expert physician advice, expert genetic counseling, but also advanced technologies that are normally not yet available. And that is what QuantGene was back then. And since then, a lot of things happened. A lot of things validated the telemedicine approach, for example. Now it's all over the place. And we were like first with that in this cancer space. And of course, now we are adding COVID testing. That's kind of a no-brainer. So, and in COVID testing, our basic premise of QuantGene, that there are medical technologies that are available but get to you too late, is true with COVID on steroids. right? So they might be available now, but you have to wait another 6 months before you can actually get tested, right? And good luck trying to get tested. Like if you just say, I don't have symptoms, but I just don't trust the whole situation, let's get tested with a PCR test that tells me if I currently have it, and with an antibody test that tells me if I had it and might have immunity. I mean, good luck. Go to CVS, try to get it, or call your doctor. And so we saw that need, and we are now deploying probably next week a solution that allows our members to just get tested. They just pay a certain price. It's not going to be too crazy. We're still figuring the details out. We send a nurse to your home and do a nasal swab and a finger prick or a blood draw, and we test you actually comprehensively, both on the PCR current RNA expression side in the blood and on antibodies. So if you had it and if you have it. And I think that reflects very much our positioning, that this stuff is available. In theory, these tests exist, they're validated, but you can't get them, and your physician can't get them. Because some payer says, well, I don't know if we want to pay. Our labs say yeah, we have them, but no one knows when to order them and how to pay them. And sometimes the government moves in and blocks a bunch of them because they want to give them to specific hospitals. And the patient should not be exposed to all these, problems in the healthcare system. The patient should be able to say, you know what, I pay $300, send me the nurse and test me for everything, and I get peace of mind, and your specialists take care of me. That's the whole idea.
So the one thing that comes to mind when I hear you describing this is concierge medicine, where you have, a subset of the consumer population who, maybe have the resources to invest in these types of preventative and proactive measures out of pocket, as opposed to having it go through their health system, because they don't want to be limited, like you're describing. I don't want to be limited. I don't want my care and my well-being to be limited by what a payer can pay. I want to be able to have access to the care that I want or that I need.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we are all about. We always describe ourselves as at the intersection of three very important things.
Okay.
Concierge and premium care is one thing, but then we combine this with telemedicine, right? So you can access this anywhere, anytime, and advanced medical technologies, which concierge care normally doesn't have.
Right.
And so it is this combination of that we have a very deep biotech background. We have our own labs, and we actually lead the world in next generation sequencing precision in specific applications, at least. We have a very extensive AI, artificial intelligence team. So that is very unique, of course. We are far beyond what a normal concierge practice can do. But we have great respect for concierge physicians, and we work together with them. We have our own network that does certain things. And so it's all about that intersection where the patient is the center. The patient is not interested if you have labs or not. The patient is interested in getting their problem solved or their protection ready. And so that's how we build that solution. Concierge care mindset, deep biotech expertise in medical device and AI expertise, and a telemedicine platform that makes this a lean, easy approach.
So, and then it sounds like you also described a subscription-based business model.
Yes, exactly. So we have a membership-based system, that you become basically an annual member, and then you can purchase different packages or products, what concerns you most. You can also purchase them all, of course, and get your cancer protection goals met. That's how we describe it. Everyone has a specific, fear or real evidence for cancer risk, and doesn't know exactly how to handle it. So we help you there. And then we add additional, urgent categories like COVID, if the need arises, because we have a very strong, bioinformatics, biointelligence team with, bio PhDs in Germany and in the US and California. And they help us understand new situations very quickly, including COVID. the underlying technologies very quickly. What is the difference between the different antibody tests? What PCR tests do we have? What is the exact validation level? What's the clinical evidence? Everything is a little complex in medicine, right? You can't just say we test for antibodies, like for what? Are these coronaviruses? Is it COVID-19?
Right.
Is it SARS? Like, you know, and the answer is in most cases with COVID, people don't know. They say like, well, it's in COVID-19. It's expressed on the surface of COVID-19 infected cells, but is it also on the surface of other coronaviruses? So how specific is that test? All these things need to be figured out. And in an urgent situation right now, it has to be figured out fast, because if you figure it out in 9 months, maybe that's not interesting for.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely a sense of timeliness and urgency in being able to meet a new market need that's kind of developed really just in the last 30 days, right?
Yes. And the interesting thing is, things are very complicated in medicine, especially if you add deep technology to it. Mm-hmm. The whole idea is talking about the membership. If you are a Serenity member, it's Quantgene Serenity is the product, chooseserenity.com is the website. If you want to, what we offer to patients is very different from other testing companies, for example, which we don't view ourselves. We're a concierge solution that solves your problem or meets your goals. Normally you go on these websites and they say, oh, do you want to get CA125 testing? Or do you want to have testosterone tested? It's like, who the hell knows? I'm not.
I was going to say, I don't know.
I don't know. It's like asking you, oh, do you want to have that protein or antibody tested or that one? It's like, I don't know. I don't want to die of COVID.
Right.
Yeah. And so our job is to translate that and tell our members, if you are a member, you know, we do everything we can to keep you safe by providing you the medical advice and the underlying technologies. And if necessary, also the coordination of care in cancer. If something happens, we give you second opinions. So you can, you know, sleep well at night and know, okay, whatever happens and whatever complexity I have to face, I have a partner here that helps me through this. Mm-hmm. And I can rely on that partner to not just be one random physician, but to be a, you know, a highly connected and professionalized research organization that scans the globe for the latest and advanced medical technologies, customizes it around my case, and makes sure I get it.
Yeah. Well, and, you know, having spent, you know, a lot of time in the pharmaceutical industry and specialty pharmacy oncology, you know, I know that, you know, when we're looking at the drug pipeline, that there's a lot of oncology products that are coming through, right, that are up for FDA approval and so forth, you know, like hundreds of them. And so it's so difficult for an oncologist to stay on top of that. I mean,
absolutely. And you're absolutely right. For a patient, it's already impossible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How would you know that, you know, here in Pasadena, there is a new imaging technology developed, right? That is for breast cancer screenings, for example, is vastly superior to mammograms and MRIs. Yep. No one knows about it. It takes another 10 years before that goes anywhere. Yep. But you should have access to it if you need it, because it's a low risk, you know, huge added level of protection against breast cancer. And just because some payer says, oh, I can't decide if I can pay $400 for that, or, you know, I would pay 200, but 400 is too much, and then they negotiate for 10 years. The same is true for drugs. The same is true. We had now a case with a center, I can't tell you which one, but a very important center in Germany that used our data to actually develop a cancer vaccine for a kind of terminal or late stage pancreatic cancer patient that was part of our study. Mm-hmm. So we are playing definitely in very, also in you know, in very deep genomics and oncology fields. You know, most people don't even know that this is possible, that you can develop custom cancer vaccines that are targeting specific changed proteins for specific patients just based on liquid biopsy results. All that is totally possible if you have the right experts. But it's kind of experimental, right? Of course, you don't have a lot of evidence for technologies that are new. But if you know your stuff about proteins and how cancer behaves, it's obvious that there is a benefit to it. And, you know, that's the question. Are you willing to take that risk if you have terminal cancer?
Sure.
You should be able to take it. And so that's kind of our thinking. And I think you're absolutely right. The patient can't know that, and the physician and the oncologist doesn't have the time to do that. We have a team of over 20 people doing nothing else than global intelligence. So, and these are physicians, but they are also bio PhDs. They're also machine learning PhDs. So we have, you need a comprehensive team that just gets the job done. Like, is there something out there that we need to know about? Can we assess the clinical utility and the efficacy of that new technology? And can we quickly evolve that into something better by adding AI layers, by combining it with other technologies? For example, combining advanced imaging for cancer detection with deep genomics blood tests that look for cancer mutations in the blood. Mm-hmm. Adding these different technologies that both are not available to standard of care, it just gets you right into the future of medicine. But you can do this today. And the only difference is, our members, for example, for Serenity Protect, the deep genomics and AI test, that costs you $200 a month, so $2,400 per year for one test, and then a year-long, like basically concierge consultation. Mm-hmm. So it's not crazy, but if you go with that to Medicare, they're just laughing at you. They're like, well, you can save 1 million people, we don't care, for $2,400 a year. You can come back when it's $40, and that's just, wrong. So I'm not going to say Medicare does something wrong. I'm just saying, from my perspective as a patient, I don't want to hear that.
Right. So I hear you talking a lot about the role of technology, and I think health innovators like you have had a vision for the role that technology could play in healthcare for a long time. Describe your point of view on how you think things are. How do you think that the market awareness and understanding of technology's role in care is not necessarily changed, I would say changing because of COVID?
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. So it's my favorite topic, obviously. That's why I started the company. I think if you want to bring disruptive innovation that is driven by technology, it's driven by hardware innovations, chemistry innovations like sequencing, certain PCR things, medical devices, but it's also vastly driven by data technology and AI, software, internet. If you want to develop innovation that's truly saving lives and is truly effective in any sector, even outside healthcare, this is non-trivial, and you have your work carved out for yourself, because you want to engineer something that is unknown by definition. You want to engineer the unknown. So that takes resources, it takes grit, determination, a lot of things, right?
A little bit crazy.
A little bit crazy. You need some visionaries, you need all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, and you need capital, like venture capital, right? That's risky. So my point is, bringing innovation from a vision to actually make it like into the world, to make it work, is a hard, complicated thing that we are all loving to do, but it's hard and complicated. Okay. That's the first thing. If you build Tesla or something, or rockets, or software, you have a hard time. You have to do this. You have to invent it. You have to find the business model, how you get, expensive stuff out first that pays for the development and then scale it down like Tesla did it, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
We know that, and that's very important to understand. The problem in healthcare, why this is stalling massively, why in healthcare you have a massive delta between what's possible in innovation and what's being done, is because an additional layer of complexity is added to this whole game that is extremely destructive. And that additional layer is not regulation. It is not the FDA. It is not even medical regulations. It is the payer system. Mm-hmm. Because in healthcare, what people, nearly everyone I know, with the exception of Quantin and a very few other companies, say is, if you don't get reimbursed, and if you don't have a clear reimbursement code and pathway to that code, your innovation is not going to happen. It's going to die in the basement.
Yep.
And we are not going to raise money, and we are not going to give you money, and you're dead. The problem is, given the complexity of innovation, if you add that level of additional complexity, right? If you would have told Tesla, you cannot launch your Roadster and you cannot launch your Model X and not your Model S, you have to come out with a car that is perfect, cheaper than internal combustion engines, and that can be immediately sold to 10 million people in 1 year. Otherwise, you can't start.
Right.
No one would have ever invented Tesla or any other innovation. And that is exactly happening in healthcare. And that's why we have a massive, massive gap between what is possible and what is being done. And the tragedy is that in healthcare, it's the one area where the opposite should happen. We should save lives and people, including ourselves, right? It's a very altruistic thing, but it's also about ourselves.
Yeah.
It's just not acceptable that the one sector where we massively fail in delivering that disruptive potential is healthcare, where we want to protect ourselves, our loved ones, and everyone else. And so our approach is you can only solve that problem if you reduce that equation and make it simpler and kick out the payer problem.
Yeah.
And we kick it out by saying, well, we assume there are people out there who are willing to pay to have their lives protected, which is not a steep thesis. I think it's proven to be true.
So I think that what you're describing is something that's like a crossroad that many health innovators find themselves. And you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but what I hear you saying is there's this one path where it may not be easier. I mean, may not be easy, but it could be perceived as easier as if I pick a current CPT code, because then that gives my potential investor pool greater confidence in the viability and sustainability or growth of my company. But at the same time, it is extremely limiting. And I might...
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. That's exactly how the vast majority of deep health tech investors and biotech investors think. And what we learned is to say, you know, what you're doing is great. We are not interested. Goodbye. That because that code-centric thinking that is extremely prevalent in biotech investing and deep health tech investing is toxic. And it's toxic to innovation and it's toxic to progress. And I can tell you very simple examples. The two examples I told you. One is our own deep technology, where we have the world's first multi-cancer detection capability with a deep genomics test. Okay, what is the code for that? There is no code, because right now it cannot be done. We are the first ones who can do this. Well, there are some others who are also good in making progress, but there is no code. So what do? You have to negotiate a new code. And to do that, it's just a ridiculous process, because then you have to, it's not just no code, it's also the entire economic system around doesn't exist.
Right.
The entire outcome calculation doesn't exist. You have to come up with the entire thing. So instead of just showing this works, it can save lives and we can provide it at that price and finding patients who can pay for it, and then scale it and then bring the price down and bring it to more and more people. People just get stuck and they can't raise the money and it never happens. And another example is imaging, like what I told you, like superior imaging technologies.
Yeah.
Okay, now you have a code, it's very clear what it does, but the thing costs twice as much. And then the insurance said, you're crazy, we're not going to pay twice as much. And then you say, but look, the outcomes, they are 50% better. And then they say, are you crazy, 50% better, but twice as much? This is not going to work for us.
Yeah.
And as a patient that then says, like, on the other side, says the opposite. Are you kidding me? You keep me 50% safer for like $100 more because I pay 200 instead of 100? Yes, give it to me. So the incentives are just wrong.
Yeah.
The patient would decide immediately, of course I pay you 50% more, twice as much, $100 more to keep me 50% safer from, missing out on breast cancer detection. But insurance says, no, thank you.
Hey, it's Dr. Roxy here with a quick break from the conversation. Are you trying to figure out what moves you need to make to survive and thrive in the new COVID economy? I want every health innovator to find their most viable and profitable pivot strategy, which is why I created the COVID Proof Your Business Pivot Kit. The Pivot Kit is a step-by-step framework that helps you find your best pivot strategy. It walks you through 6 categories you need to examine for a 360-degree view of your business. I call them the 6 critical pivot lenses. As you make your way through this comprehensive kit, you'll be armed with the tools, tips, and strategies you need to make sure you can pivot with speed without missing out on critical details and opportunities. Learn more at legacy-dna.com /kit.
So one of the other things that I hear you saying is really interesting is as we're kind of looking at these choices and these decisions that health innovators are making is that, one way I may be looking at, okay, if I get a CPT code, it may allow me to be able to market to a much larger market, right? My total addressable market might be much larger if I can align with a CPT code and more of like a B2B approach. And so I hear innovators talk all the time. I just need 1% of that market. Like, the TAM is, 100 billion and I just need 1%. So surely this is going to work without considering all of the years and the obstacles down that path. And what I hear you saying is that, it's wise for health innovators to consider, I might have a smaller addressable market, but I'm going to be able to get to market faster. And I might have a much more viable business. And I might want to get 20% of the market, but 20% of a smaller market can be much more powerful than 1%, of a larger market.
Exactly. And like sometimes it depends, like what's the total addressable market versus what's the real addressable market and all these things.
Yep.
And I like to view it a little differently. I think you want to have something where you say, well, in general, basically everyone needs this thing. So in our case, who needs to be protected from cancer statistically? The answer is everyone over 40, or probably over 20,
yeah.
Over 45 exponentially more. So that is our total addressable market. It's limitless and it's everyone. That's always a good starting point. And then we say, what's our real market? And then I say, our real market is what we can actually sell today.
Yeah.
And so I have a different perspective. I want an unlimited TAM, and I want a real market where I always have 100% because it's whatever I do right now, because there's no competition. And then I want to grow that real market as much as I can bottom up. So I'm a little critical of this, we have a 10 billion TAM and we need 1%, like who the hell cares? You should have a much bigger than $10 billion market, and you should just see, can you get 100 customers in the door today, and can you get 200 in the door next month, and then you're good.
Yeah, what I've seen is that historically investors, when they hear that, instead of being impressed, they run.
Yeah, I think investors, it's a whole different story. I think we have a lot of experience. I was actually on the other side for some time. I was in M&A, so I think. And I did a lot of, work in quantitative venture capital and built my own system there. So I'm very aware that investors in the US, you probably have, 50 million investors. So to say, investors is already a mistake. You're talking about a massively complex, heterogeneous market. And especially in angel and early stage. And what we are doing now, we are in the process of raising another round. What we really learned is to develop this pattern matching ability that we just avoid. We don't even take calls from certain investors.
Sure.
Like if you're a deep biotech fund, we just say, just pitch before we even take the call, just write in an email why you think you're a match, because you're probably not. And we don't want to waste our time with that stuff.
Yeah.
But if someone is like an experienced consumer-facing healthcare venture capital early stage fund with experience both in deep tech and in consumer-facing self-payer products, then you're very hot for us. And we say, well, you understand what we are doing and we understand how you think. Now it's worth having a conversation.
So, I think that that's a really valuable lesson for our listeners as well, of just being specific and kind of having some idea of who's going to be a best match from an investor standpoint, and not wasting time, like you said, not wasting valuable time pitching someone who's not going to be a good fit anyway.
Yeah, and that sounds, of course, I know that some entrepreneurs think are annoyed by that. They think you have easy talking. If you raised 13 million, now raising more, whatever. I didn't raise anything. I know it's hard. I have to talk to everyone. And I think the truth is in between. You have to figure out for your own company and your own pitch, what exactly is it that you do, and what exactly is your competitive space, which is very important.
Yeah.
So I can give you some insights behind the scenes here. I think that's interesting for your listeners probably who are entrepreneurs. The way we go about investors right now. I think investors, there are like three things. There's a triangle you have to figure out. Who are you and what is your product?
Yeah.
Who are your peers? And peers are not competitors. They are companies like you at the core. And what is the investor universe that has invested in these peers? Right? Okay. So that's the triangle you have to get right. And we do this through very extensive lists and research. And to give you an example, for us, our peers are not liquid biopsy companies. They're not like other companies that try to detect cancer early stage in the blood, because they are mostly slaves to the code, right? They're CPT slaves. So they have literally nothing to do with us. They will never get this to market. They will never have anything in the next 5 or 7 years. So why would I? And if they ever do, they have to do totally different things from us.
Oh, it's a completely different belief system.
Yes. So even though the tech in one respect is similar to our one part of our core tech, it's just not who we are. Whereas someone who is a premium primary care provider, even without tech, is closer to us. They have telemedicine, they have to recruit their patients, they have to convince them about membership plans.
Yeah.
And so once you understand that as a company, as us, okay, now we understand our peers. Even better peers are people who combine consumer-facing healthcare services with some kind of deep tech, even if it has nothing to do with, preventative or concierge or cancer, but something where you sell, I don't know, prescription drugs direct to consumers somehow with a cool interface, but also to have deals with pharma companies or something.
Yeah.
You have a universe, and then all you do is you go on Crunchbase or something, and then figure out who invested in them. And then you go to these VCs and look up, okay, what else did they invest in? Was this a one-off, or do they have more of them? And then the next question is your round size. If you are at seed stage, you want to raise $1 million, you need to find investors who are willing and able and have a track record of writing $250,000 checks.
Yep.
If they say, oh, we invest 10 to 100 million in our private equity fund, it's just stupid. And I mean, it's just a complete mismatch. So I think, and then you learn over time, if you are pre-series B or C, smaller investors that are highly specialized are just so much better partners than, Vanguard or something.
Right.
That's going to help you.
So, I just say, everybody that's listening, be discerning and get clear on this triangle. I think that is a very clear and beautiful investor strategy for all of our listeners to kind of take heed to. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, that definitely helped us. And also, like investors, once you have something that's really hot, which we actually have on the deep tech side, all investors are going to take some time and talk to you and do due diligence. It's just not going to help you. So it's actually bad. They're just going to waste your time. They're going to check out your technology. And that happened to us last year. Like all these biotech investors, like, oh yeah, sure, let's talk. Oh, let's get the data room. Oh, very impressive technology. And at some point, we just realized they will never invest, because when it comes to like how do you make money, and we say not through a CPT code, it is a complete death blow.
Yeah, right.
So, and they said, oh, but your tech is so hot. You have the best liquid biopsy tech. The numbers are very impressive. You should totally, we were very interested in doing this if you pivot to a single cancer test, CPT, colorectal cancer only. And then we said, no, that's the dumbest thing we ever heard.
Yeah. And, and sometimes that you need to be bold enough to say that and have courage to just say no. And I think that it's good for us to continue to have that conversation, to empower other investors to say, like, this is what we're doing. This is what's successful. And I said no, and you can say no too. That's
why I'm always a big fan of raise a little more than you need and spend much less than you wanted, because that gives you the ability to say no. Say like, well, we don't have a lot of money in the bank, but we also have a very low burn rate. So whatever, go home if you don't want us.
Right. You're not desperate. You're right. You're not putting yourself in a desperate situation. Okay. So that was a perfect segue into my next question, talking about raise more than you need and reduce your burn rate. And so my question is, how is COVID impacting your business?
So in our specific case, I think the bottom line is it was tremendously positive looking back so far,
Yeah.
which is surprising. Number one, telework, right? Remote work turned out to be highly effective. Everyone just gets so much more effective because there is no BS thing. It's like, okay, you have to deliver your stuff. I don't even see you. So next time I see you, we can just discuss if you have the stuff. So that was also people, well, the teams, I think it's different. Some people become more productive at home and some less. And so it's important to keep up the spirit and motivation, but also the people who are very good in that situation, just let them run and do their stuff.
Yeah.
I'm also violating that, the rules a little bit and hang out in the office as you see. And
I didn't know you were going to tell everyone that.
a few people, but we keep totally distanced. It's like, a 50-person office with 3 people in there. So
6 feet apart.
So there's also the saying that tough times accelerate innovation. I think that's absolutely true. If you look at the stock market and you look at Amazon and Netflix, they are higher, they have historic highs, right? Because everyone's, I think so most of the things are positive. Like there are 3 things I would look at for quarantine and COVID. Number one, productivity is up, clearly up. That's good. Product and innovation speed definitely totally up because it gave us a new perspective. We actually added 2 more products that were very easy to add that we didn't see before, including COVID testing, obviously. So product development and innovation speed is up. General productivity is up. Fundraising is definitely down. That took a hit. I think it's turning around a little bit. And now, since we are now a COVID company, that's actually very helpful again, telemedicine and COVID, without like making it fake news. I mean, it actually matches our profile.
Right. It's not a stretch. It's still who you are.
Yes.
Yeah.
But not everything is, rainbows and unicorns in COVID times. I mean, a lot of investors are clearly very much holding back.
Yeah.
VCs not so much, but family offices, because some took hits. But worse than taking hits, they're swamped by opportunity. That is a big problem for us.
Yeah.
I just talked to a family office and they said, we can buy AAA rated bonds at 80 cents on the dollar right now. So we get free money with no risk. Why would we do any VC investments right now? Yeah. So I hope stock market recovers, bond markets recover, and then I think they will turn back to VC investments. And I think we shouldn't go too crazy. My prediction with COVID is it's definitely dimming down. I think it was a little overhyped. It's always, of course, tragic to have any kind of pandemic and people dying that normally wouldn't have died. That's terrible. But I think the scale of it is a little overblown.
Yeah.
As we see now.
So let's talk about some of the pivots that you've done, because I almost kind of think of it like little Easter eggs in our conversation. I've kind of heard you talk about kind of like a product pivot and maybe a positioning pivot. Probably your value proposition has changed.
Yes.
Certainly, I would say across the board, everyone's sales strategy has been pivoted because we're not meeting face to face anymore. But help us understand what that process was like for you to kind of evaluate your pre-COVID market strategy and then analyze the different paths that you could take and what was going to make the most sense for you and some of the decisions that you made.
I mean, the funny thing is we were on a trajectory of change before COVID that was just completely accelerated through COVID. So it was not something that was changing our strategy, it was just accelerating. And the history of Quantgene is a history where we started as a liquid biopsy company. I basically saw this specific technology opportunity that I figured out a way to detect multiple cancers at early stages in the blood.
Yep.
And with very high efficiency through some very deep innovations. And what we found out over the last 5 years, developing this deep tech. So we started super deep, revolutionized next generation sequencing, build massive new software infrastructure for signal processing, and then an AI system to recognize cancer patterns. So it's like hardcore stuff. That was a lot of fun, and also completely changed the, behind the scenes what's happening in the industry. Of course, we were a little naive about it and thought like, well, all you have to do is detect cancer early stage. I mean, what else is there to say, right? We know what that, you can save 400,000 American lives a year. So why, that cannot be hard to sell to investors. And the thing is that you can't save anyone because no one's going to pay for it. And then, this dichotomy started, like, what do you mean? No one is going to pay for saving 400,000 American lives a year? Yeah. Like, well, in theory, it sounds good, but what's the exact CPT plan?
Yep.
It's like, well, we need a new code for a multi-cancer detection test. And then everyone says, this is just literally not possible. Like, it's just not possible, regardless of what you show. And then I realized this is just madness. These people agree with me it works. They agree we can save more American lives per year than America lost in the Second World War in total. And everyone says, not a big deal. We just can't pay for it. We can't figure out the code. So, and then it dawned on me, okay, this is just complete madness here.
Yeah.
And then it led to the pivot, okay, we need to figure out how we unlock a self-payer market, sell this directly to patients, then build so much evidence and also psychological evidence that you basically saved 100,000 people that the insurance just can't, or Medicare, they can't stop it anymore. That's our strategy. And so doing that led us down this path from being a hardcore medical technology company to, okay, we need concierge care. We need to bring this to patients. We have to be nice to them. We have to be, service oriented, have the best physicians and the best genetic counselors that are, significantly better than your normal physician, ideally. And then we came into like, how are we as a startup going to roll that out nationwide? Are we going to build, 10,000 retail outlets? Like, probably not. And then that led us to telemedicine. And so we started building the telemedicine infrastructure and the physician infrastructure to deploy this deep tech. And that all happened last year and the beginning of this year, right? And telemedicine was more an afterthought. It was like, okay, we can't build retail, so let's just try telemedicine. I know people don't really like it and it's not that great. It's better to have retail, but whatever. Let's just do it. And then COVID hit. And then first we thought, ooh, this is like a little irritating. Now we have all this problems. But then became very clear, well, it's the absolute boost to our approach, because telemedicine went to like a stepchild to the option.
Yeah, so, I just had someone on the show a couple of weeks ago that's been working and advocating for telemedicine for 27 years. And finally, and it took a global pandemic.
Yeah. Telemedicine is a little bit like the climate change guys that always say, oh, we have to stop climate change, and oh, here we burn too much, and no one listens. Everyone's like, yeah, whatever. And then COVID hits, and suddenly you meet your CO2 goals in 1 month that you want to do in 2040. So it's kind of a...
It is. And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I think that the complete global shutdown of the world and having to go to technology and remote and virtual has been a convergence of many positive market conditions and kind of forcing change that's culminating into this beautiful recipe that is going to accelerate adoption of these tools that, innovators like yourself have been kind of banging their head up against the market for years trying to get adoption. And all of a sudden, those growth curves are going to just skyrocket. And it might not be in the next 30 days, but, at some point we'll flip the switch, turn the dial. And we'll never look back.
Exactly. I think that's important. It's not a one-off thing where people are going to say, ooh, now it's over. Let's just go back to our retail things.
Right.
It's like Amazon. Like once you order everything through your force and everything just gets delivered all the time and it's cheaper and better. And it's like, why would I even stop that? And then telemedicine, oh yeah, these premium services. And then you just go on the screen. You get better, nicer physicians because they can be better trained and more focused on your problem.
And they show up on time.
Yes, and I also think innovators get a boost because we were already on this trajectory of direct direct primary care, right?
Yeah.
So that people are used, oh, maybe I pay 99 a month and then I get actually access to a physician. I think now a lot more people are being incentivized to just take out their credit card and start paying for their health. Very reasonable amounts, like a bunch of cappuccinos a month or something.
Right.
And then realize, wait a moment, I'm paying like 500 for my car, and I'm paying 2,000 mortgage, and I'm paying 100 for cappuccinos. Maybe I should pay 100 for keeping me alive.
Completely.
And I think once you do that, it's like, ooh, this is actually pretty good. Finally, I can have intelligent conversations with a physician who's actually trained in, addressing my issues, or even better with genetic counselors and really deep experts. That's what we offer. We have basically physicians you can talk to, but also genetic counselors, and maybe most importantly in this context, tech experts, right? You can actually ask questions about how does this tech actually work, which physicians normally don't know, obviously. So, you can actually investigate exactly, okay, what mutations are you looking at, and how does this AI work? What are the bases? Is it a random forest, or is it Bayesian layer over? And you will be surprised. You always assume, oh, the patient is all these, like, there is this weird assumption in medicine, paternalistic medicine, right? Every patient is like the little dumb, IQ of 70 and don't know anything. And you will be surprised that all these, venture capital fund partners and tech entrepreneurs and, AI specialists, or, people who lead podcasts and, are writers in medicine, they are all patients.
Right.
They're not really dumb. They are very smart. They probably know more than many physicians. And, this is also our clientele. We are used to people who, know their stuff, who are used to making very complex decisions based on very complex, imperfect information in their everyday lives, or are even like thinkers and researchers. So they definitely understand what we are saying, and they want to know the details.
So as we wrap up here, what lessons learned or advice do you have for your fellow entrepreneurs who are in the trenches like you, trying to figure out how they're going to survive or thrive in this new COVID economy?
Well, I think in healthcare, as an entrepreneur, I can just encourage everyone to really think like a business person and really think about, okay, what is the value I'm actually generating? Who's my actual customer, including my investors? Like who are the people who I want money from, who I promise to deliver value to?
Yeah.
Who exactly is that? And what is that value? And if that doesn't work right now because there's some COVID thing going on, is there something that is close or is based on the same principle that I'm promising that I can pivot to? And for example, we were all about cancer protection, which we still are, and this will still remain vastly more important than COVID,
right?
Like in rational terms, not in panic terms. But we saw, if our promise is, well, we provide premium preventative care through telemedicine solutions to you by bringing advanced medical technologies to bear to protect you. If you take that and apply it to COVID, I mean, it's pretty clear what you have to do. Offer a product with specialized consultation that tests antibodies and the current state of RNA. So do you have it and did you have it? And allow access to that where you just pay and you get it.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what we did in cancer, where we say, well, you can wait 10 years and then you get that maybe, or you can just come to us and get it now with better actually advice. The same is true for COVID, only that, with COVID, you don't have to wait 10 years. You probably have to wait 1 year to get it, but that's still insufficient. And so the exact same paradigm we did apply to cancer technology and protection. We can apply to COVID. It took us some time to realize that because I was first against it. I thought like, this is all stupid panic and it's overdone. And then slowly I realized, well, it doesn't even matter what the medical facts are. This is definitely happening.
Yeah.
And people are definitely scared and they definitely want to know that. And then we kind of pivot or added that to the portfolio. So I can that would be my advice. Just, you can't put enough time into business model and economic understanding of what you actually do. Like, what is the value?
Yeah, and it reminds me that there are quite a few health innovators that I think if they pause during this time and they evaluate their pre-COVID market strategy and their new options that they could take, right? Whether it be another customer segment, tweaking their product, or maybe their business model, they might even find that their new pivot strategy could actually have a better product market fit than what they originally even had to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So you talk about innovation and creativity that can be derived from chaos. I think that we'll have a lot of success stories when we come out of this.
Absolutely. And I think chaos is just positive for innovators because it pulls you out of whatever silo you're in. And we are a great example. We literally spend 95% of the money we spend and attention, everything we spent over the last 5 years was in deep genomics and cancer detection. And then it took us 4 weeks to realize there is a hereditary test we could offer. And then later the COVID test that literally would, add to our revenue like 30 or 50%. So basically with 1% of the effort of the entire original tech stack, we added, 50% to our entire business by just having that idea. Like, why don't we just also plug in clinical grade hereditary testing and COVID testing? It's super easy. Like, it was ridiculously easy compared to what we did before. Whereas
Right.
hardcore. But from a consumer point of view, we just look 3 times more awesome.
Right. Yeah. Huge. Well, it's been a very delightful and valuable conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with our listeners. So, Joe, how can folks get a hold of you if someone wants to learn more about your solution or just really powwow with you about, what it's like being a health innovator today?
Yeah, I think best way is always to either reach out on Twitter at Joe Bhakdi. That's my Twitter. Quantgene.com. That's the website. I'm also happy to get emails, jb@quantgene.com. And these are the best ways to do it. And chooseserenity.com, of course.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Roxy. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening. I know you're busy working to bring your life-changing innovation to market, and I value your time and your attention. To save time and get the latest episodes on your mobile device automatically, subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate everyone who's been sharing the show with friends and colleagues. See you on the next episode of COIQ.